North Texas is under an elevated fire threat warning as deadly fires rage across Oklahoma.
Hundreds are dead in Gaza after Israel launched a surprise airstrike last night.
The files on former President John F. Kennedy's assassination are set to be released today.
Broadcasting live from the University of North Texas, this is ntTV News at Noon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining ntTV News at Noon. I'm Landry Brady.
And I'm Annie Tomlin.
It was so windy on my way to the station. This warmer weather is really stirring up the air.
Yeah, I cannot believe how strong these winds are. I'm not a fan of tornadoes, so hopefully we can stay far, far away from that.
Let's toss it over to our weather anchor Cornelius Williams-Peoples to see what exactly happens throughout the day.
Hey everybody. So, to begin here on the current conditions, it is going to be mostly sunny with a little bit of clouds, that being like 33% coverage of those clouds there. But it is going to be a 72 degrees in the current temperature. Feels like 72, so you will have a pleasant day ahead of us. And also carrying 23 miles per hour wind speed. As we move on to tonight's forecast is still going to have those clouds, but the change is that it's going to be 82 degrees this time, feeling also 82 and having 26 miles per hour wind speed. Now, moving on to tomorrow's forecast. Tomorrow's forecast, the clouds will be gone. You will have a pleasant sunny day, that being in the 60 degrees. It feels like 57 and having a 24 miles per hour wind speed. Due to the dry and windy conditions in the western areas of North and Central Texas, there is a red flag warning from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. A red flag warning means conditions exist that could lead to a wildfire. While it does not mean that there is an active fire happening, officials urge residents to make a wildfire evacuation plan, have a safety kit, and listen to local officials for updates and evacuation orders. To make sure to avoid activities that could spark a wildfire like outdoor fires, driving over tall grass, throwing lit cigarettes on the ground, or allowing chains attached to cars to drag. Also, be aware of where you park. Hot cars on dry grass can cause fires too. Make sure to be on the lookout for all weather updates regarding the potential fire threats in the North Texas area. That's all I have for now. I will be back later in the show for your full weather update. Until then, let's go back to the desk, guys.
Thank you, Cornelius. The Department of Education Office of Civil Rights is investigating UNT for race exclusionary practices within their graduate programs. The school's officials said that they will work with the federal office in this investigation on Monday. The university's Director of Media Relations, Devin Case, said in an email that the University of North Texas has received formal notice of the investigation and is fully cooperating. UNT is named among 45 universities that has allegedly violated the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act by 1964 by participating in the PhD Project, an organization that helps students earn their doctoral business degrees. However, UNT officially denies any involvement with that organization.
In a sudden act of aggression, Israel ended its ceasefire with Hamas in the early morning by launching an airstrike against the Gaza Strip. This has left at least 560 Palestinian citizens injured and 404 killed, according to CNN. The victims included children and the elderly. Israel has stated that they launched this attack against Hamas as a result of talks stalling out over when Hamas would release Israeli hostages. Other countries, such as Egypt and Qatar, have called out Israel for their blatant violation of the ceasefire agreement. CNN spoke with a spokesperson of UNICEF based in Gaza to give their account of last night's events.
After 15 minutes, when that subsided somewhat, I could hear people yelling outside, screaming. I heard ambulances driving on and off. And the bombing has continued throughout the night, but with more space in between those explosions. We've seen reports of several dozen children killed.
We will keep you updated as the story unfolds.
Is a recession on the way? Economists are worried that we will have an increase in tariffs that will cause us to go into a slip in economic recession. While President Trump has said that it'll be all worth it in the end, creating a better future for Americans, CNN's Amy Kiley has more on the story.
They're sort of making excuses and stories about a bad economy when we don't yet have a bad economy.
Experts say it's not too late to avoid inflation and a potential economic slowdown. That's despite a grim new forecast and warnings like these from the Trump administration.
There are no guarantees.
Between now and April 2nd, there'll be some uncertainty.
April 2nd is when President Donald Trump says he'll unveil sweeping new tariffs. He says they'll offer negotiating leverage, protection for some domestic industries, and a response to trade deficits.
It's a liberation day for our country because we're going to be getting back a lot of the wealth that we so foolishly gave up to other countries.
A new report from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development paints a grimmer outlook. It predicts if U.S. businesses end up paying more tariffs, that would lead to price hikes for American consumers and a slower U.S. economy. But note that word if.
A lot of the fundamentals are still in pretty good shape.
It's almost as if the Trump economic team has accepted that bad things are going to happen.
The president says he won't back down on tariffs. Other countries say they're working on retaliatory measures and trade deals that don't involve the U.S. But economists point out it's not April 2nd yet.
That's kind of a self-created crisis. I feel like that could be pretty easily reversed if needed.
I'm Mimi Kiley reporting.
When we come back, more on some long-awaited documents to be released today.
And more on how those in North Texas are fighting against food insecurity. Stay with us.
In the same old city, you want to learn something and go overseas? Then study abroad with one of many UNT Study Abroad programs. You can find a Study Abroad office right here at Markey Hall, room 145.
My study abroad program left on me a great impression. We have a lot of different programs and it varies. We have faculty-led, affiliate, and exchange programs. When you're ready to leave for your study abroad program from UNT, you're going to go through pre-departure orientation and modules so that you are prepared.
The power to turn the world into your classroom is right here at UNT with our study abroad programs. Take flight and take in charge of your education.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounce checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
I use Flex to buy my favorite snacks.
I use Flex to get me through my mornings.
I use Flex at my favorite campus restaurants.
I love how Flex is a cashless payment method and can be used at all campus dining venues.
So, how do you use Flex?
President Donald Trump plans to release the uncensored files associated with the assassination of John F. Kennedy later today. In February, the FBI said it discovered around 2,400 new records in relation to the 1963 assassination from a new record search order from Trump. Trump says all 80,000 pages worth of documentation will be released. In 2023, the National Archives concluded their reviews of the documents, with 99% of the records being made publicly available. However, the CIA, Pentagon, and the State Department still have documentation they refuse to release in order to protect the identities, confidential sources, and how the information was gathered.
The public school system has been a large conversation in Texas the last couple of weeks after Governor Greg Abbott introduced his plan to provide private school vouchers to families who may not be able to afford private education. While some are happy about the plan, others are worried about how these vouchers will negatively affect public schools. I got the chance to speak to public educators and learn all about this new plan.
Every parent in the state of Texas deserves access to be able to choose the school that's best for their child.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott introduced his plan for a private school voucher program early last year. It is a plan that will take public funds and put that money towards things like scholarships to help families pay for children's private education. This plan does not come without its challenges, however, with many public educators having fears for their kids at their schools.
We won't be able to afford as many teachers. Services may get cut, like, if they're in extracurricular activities, sports and things, that we may not have the manpower to do that kind of stuff anymore, because all of our money and all of our funding will be going to a private school.
Despite the popular opinion of public school teachers, the governor actually says that public school funding will not be an issue.
And when this session ends, we will provide more funding than ever in the history of our state for our public schools.
But even though Governor Abbott promises more funding, many people like after-school care worker Hung Win are worried about their younger family members' quality of education if the vouchers were to be implemented.
I have a sister and a cousin who goes to a public school. I fear that in the future, their education and resources will be limited.
With the fear of educators and families heightened, we truly won't know the outcome of these vouchers until they go into effect, which Greg Abbott has said could potentially happen as soon as next school year. For North Texas Television, I'm Landry Brady.
If you're getting tired of all the grocery stores in Denton, I have some good news. H-E-B is coming to Denton and is set to break ground near Robson Ranch Road and I-35 West. The new store will be just about 15 minutes from the UNT campus, making it much closer for students and locals. H-E-B's managing director of public affairs described the Denton area as growing rapidly and says the company is excited to bring H-E-B to our community. The company is still in the process of purchasing this property, but the plan is to break ground later this spring. This year marks H-E-B's 120th anniversary, and they're planning to bring even more locations to North Texas.
And while we're on the topic of food, ntTV reporter Lucy Ritchie had the opportunity to get a deeper look into the food insecurity problem affecting single mothers. Here's what she found.
For many single women in Denton, food insecurity isn't just about finding meals, it's about finding help. Across the city, organizations are stepping in to provide relief, but there are still some gaps. Through the United Way of Denton, there's an acronym called ALICE. ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed.
This is a woman who is not married, who has kiddos at home, sometimes 2 or 3 kiddos. She has no assets, so she does not own her car, does not own her home, has no money in the bank. She's income constrained. She's working.
The Alices of Denton currently make up 23% of the people living in Denton. Food banks like Tarrant County Food Bank and the Denton Community Food Center are currently serving more than 2,000 families combined every week. They provide nutritious foods, nutrition education, and access to resources for getting short-term help. But some of these women still face some struggles.
Child care is a major challenge for a single parent in balancing a day of getting kids to school, getting kids to childcare, getting yourself to a job, spending a full day at a job, and getting back before the full day at daycare is done.
Single mothers in Denton are facing the repercussions of rising costs of living, limited food pantry hours, transportation barriers, and the stigma around seeking help.
If you have a real food insecurity, you got to figure out how to get to the food pantry with all that going on. How am I going to get there? And if you don't have a car, then you have to figure out how to get the car to get over to the food pantry.
Food banks provide critical short-term relief, but what about the long-term solutions? In our next segment, we'll explore what's being done to make food access more sustainable for everyone. ntTV's Lucy Ritchie.
The weather has gotten a lot warmer this week, and honestly, I don't know how I feel about it.
I honestly love it, but I need to remember to wear sunscreen because I am unfortunately sunburned as we speak.
Yeah, it's looking like you'll need that sunscreen a little while longer. Our weather anchor, Cornelius Williams-Peoples, is back to tell us all about the weather conditions this week. Cornelius?
Yeah, you may need that sunscreen, just a little bit though, because it seems like we're going to have pleasant temperatures ahead of us. but that will be in the 7-day forecast. For now, let's take a look at this. Across the North Texas area, it will be roughly in the 70s, in the low 70s area. That being like, for example, Denton being 72, Decatur 71, Graham being 76 on the far end, and even Stephenville being 75. And even over here, it's even going to be in the 70 degrees as well. As we move on across to the next part here, again, the weather is going to be nice, and it's actually going to be pretty great, actually, considering that the wind is really picking up the favor of making it cooler than expected. Like, for example, Abilene being 75, Denton, again, 72, Austin, 74, even El Paso, which usually be generally hot, is at a 73 right now. And Amarillo being 73, Oklahoma City 72, and Shreveport, Louisiana, for example, 73. Now, let's move on to the 7-day forecast. The 7-day forecast is showing that starting on Wednesday, like I said before, it's going to be sunny, but the wind that is picking up is going to make it cooler. That means 62 degrees and a low of 37. Thursday, it will remain sunny. For the most part, it's going to be 67 and a low of 42. Now, what's interesting here is that it's gradually increasing from between Friday to Sunday. That being said, Friday is going to be mostly sunny, and that wind, again, is picking up. But once that wind is gone, through that Saturday, it's going to rise up in temperatures, being 81, for example, high of 81, and a low of 61, and Sunday being 83 to 47. Moving on to Monday, it's going to be mostly sunny, little to clouds, that being 78 degrees, low 51, and Tuesday being 83, high of 83 to low 55. That's all I have for you. Now let's take it back to the desk.
Thank you, Cornelius. Fire crews across the state of Texas are fighting a large grass fire north of Fredericksburg. The fire has spread more than 8,640 acres, but luckily the Texas A&M Forest Service has reported that the fire is at least 40% contained. Even though the wind conditions have subsided, officials have asked the public to avoid the area as firefighters are still working all hours to get the fire contained. Fredericksburg is not the only place in Texas facing the dangers of fires, though. The North Texas area is under an elevated fire watch due to the increased windy and dry conditions. Wildfires are also popping up in Oklahoma as well. Members of the Manford, Oklahoma community are sifting through rubble this week to see what can be saved after wildfires destroyed many homes in their town. CNN's Naomi Key got the chance to speak to a member of the community about the devastation that has taken place.
A drive down Birch Drive is an unfortunate sight to see. Look left, piles of rubble that used to be homes, bricks standing tall, but everything else crumbled to the ground. Look right, cars burnt to a crisp, roofs caved in. I counted at least 12 homes burned to the ground on Birch. Aaron Fredrickson lives there and considers himself one of the lucky ones.
A lot of stuff got damaged, but there's still some stuff that got saved, which is good.
He walked me inside his home, one of the few that got burned, but still has walls intact.
When I walked in, it was just smoky in here, and I can hear it crackling in the attic.
He tells me with black soot covering the walls, insulation covering the floors, and a big hole in his ceiling, he can't live there right now, but maybe one day.
I'm just still trying to process it. It's not, it's not something you expect to see.
It's the reality for dozens of homeowners in Manford who are deciding whether to move or rebuild. This is Greenbrier Circle, one of the other hard-hit neighborhoods. I counted at least 10 homes that'll need to be leveled and rebuilt. Emergency officials say 30 to 50 Manford homes burned to the ground, and as the smell of smoke still permeates much of the city, many people I talked with say they're just taking it one day at a time.
It's going to take some time. I've never been through anything like this. So.
We hope that the families in the Manford community are safe and able to rebuild as soon as possible.
After the break, more on a major business move that could impact the security of your web browsers.
And how 2 stranded astronauts are finally making the trip back home when we come back.
All right, look up here. 1, 2, 3. Mom, Dad, I got it. You're right, Mom. I have.
With the growing concerns of cyber attacks, companies are doing everything they can do to be able to protect their databases. Well, today, Google has acquired the cloud security platform Wiz for $32 billion, joining together to create a more cyber secure option for businesses and government facilities. This comes after Wiz declined a $23 billion deal last year, with Wiz claiming that it was due to the reasons of antitrust amongst investors. With the growing use of AI, Google knew that they needed to keep up with the new wave of technology, which is why they set their sight on Wiz, an app that uses an AI-dominant cloud solutions. This deal could close in 2026, but until then, Wiz will still be able to use amongst different platforms such as Amazon Web, Oracle, and Microsoft Azure.
After being stranded in space for 9 months, astronaut Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams are on their way home. Their original mission was only supposed to last 8 days, but now after 286 days, they'll be reunited with their families in Houston. Williams and Wilmore will be coming home on a SpaceX capsule called Dragon, and a SpaceX crew will be replacing them on the International Space Station. Their mission gained the attention of politicians, and Trump criticized Biden for, quote, abandoning the duo in space. Former astronaut Terry Virts said that this is not unusual and it's standard procedure. The SpaceX capsule will splash down off the coast of Florida, where the astronauts will be flown to Ellington Field to be reunited with their families. Finally, they'll finish their journey at the Johnson Space Center in Houston.
Now, Annie, I've been thinking about this since the astronaut story from earlier. What do you think you would do if you went to space?
I've never really needed to think about that, but I heard of a new sci-fi that will get you thinking all things space. Maybe it'll give me a better chance to answer your question.
That's right. Our segment anchor, India Edwards, is here to tell us more about this upcoming movie. India?
Thanks, guys. For all of our sci-fi fans, I have a new movie for you. What would you do if you were thousands of miles away from Earth and you've lost all of your memory and your crewmates? Well, you can see what one astronaut does in the new movie Ash.
Asa Gonzalez finds herself the sole survivor of a horrific event on an alien planet in Ash.
I don't know what happened here. So after the dystopian survival horror movie where we start in this space base in the opening, and we realize this woman, Rhea, is in some place that we don't recognize with a bunch of bodies that have been murdered brutally.
She's incredible. You know, one of the most passionate artists I've ever worked with in any medium, you know, in music or film. I could see she had a lot on her shoulders and a lot to prove. You know, it's her first real lead movie, and, you know, she wanted to do great. She wanted to do a great job, and she brought a lot to it every day.
It's me, Brian. It's just the complete unknown. You know, it couldn't be further away from our home, you know, Earth, what we're used to. And so it just kind of allows you to just put yourself in the distant, you know, like a distant place. Oxygen levels critical.
Watching with the lights on in Hollywood, I'm Rick Damagella.
This intergalactic film comes out in limited release on March 21st, and I hope to see you there in theaters. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, India. Landry, do you know what time of year it is?
Let me guess. Is it baseball season?
It is baseball season and softball season. I could keep going, but our sports anchor, Christian Bursett, is here to tell you about more than I can. Christian?
Thanks, guys. The MLB season opener is here. I've got an update on the return of baseball, as well as a look into the NIT bracket, featuring your Mean Green.
Are you looking for a fun club with travel opportunities? Dive into the UNT Swim Club. Practicing Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Pole Recreation Center. We accept members at any skill level. For more information, reach out to us at unt.swimclub on Instagram.
While the rest of UNT was on spring break, Mean Green softball celebrated senior pitcher Skylar Savage as she passed 300 career strikeouts in a shutout win against Tarleton State. I talked to Savage and the team about the accomplishment after Wednesday's game. Mean Green softball rolled through Tarleton State last Wednesday as senior Skylar Savage made program history when she passed 300 strikeouts in the 4-0 victory.
I'm just a ground ball pitcher, so 300 Ks is just a little small step for me. It's a good goal to have. I'm excited that I did it, but I'm here to help my team win games. So.
Savage carried the team through the first half of the game with her shutout pitching, as both teams were unable to score until the Mean Green exploded for 3 runs in the bottom of the 4th.
Knowing that your pitcher can hold it down in the circle, it relieves the pressure off of you when you're hitting 100%.
After the game, Coach DeLong spoke about the team's need for improvement behind the plate, while having nothing but praise for Savage's performance behind the mound, as he congratulated her for reaching 300 career strikeouts.
Oh, she's great. Just the embodiment of a program, a great kid to coach, a great human. Just all the success she has, she deserves it. She works hard, and I love to see it.
Now with the record of 19-9 after a rough series against Wichita State over the weekend, the Mean Green will look to bring their offense to life when they take on UT Arlington at home this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mean Green softball hopes to see you tomorrow night at Lovelace Stadium when they take on UT Arlington at 6 p.m. After a disappointing end to both the men's and women's regular season, both UNT basketball teams will get the chance to redeem themselves in the National Invitational Tournament. Although both teams had hoped for an appearance in the NCAA tournament, a win in the NIT can go a long way in improving a program through recruiting and national coverage. The men's basketball team will host Furman tomorrow in the Super Pit at 7 p.m., while the women have secured a first-round bye. We wish both teams luck as they look to bring trophies home to Denton. Thanks, guys. Back to the desk.
Thanks for watching ntTV News at Noon.
Join us again tonight and at 6 and tomorrow at noon here on North Texas Television.